4th of March, the news broke out that CRISPR modified tomatoes have hit the Japanese market. This news took the whole world by storm. CRISPR modified tomatoes. Wow. Is it science fiction or is it happening? Are they better than regular tomatoes or should we even consume it or not? A lot of debates started online and offline, but here's something which I want to tell you. The regulatory body has already approved it. There are companies who are manufacturing CRISPR tomato not in the farm but in the lab, and they are injecting it in the market. And the only difference will be when they label it as a CRISPR tomato or a regular tomato. But imagine the future where scientists will be able to grow crops in the lab. That is the future where we will be able to grow faster, better, more pest resistant, more disease resistant, more produce in smaller place. And that will pave way to growing food in the space also. Now, this was possible through CRISPR, through bioinformatics, and through many such technologies of the past which we have built.
The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
Taste the sun. Gene editing produces vitamin D-enhanced tomatoes. The applications of CRISPR gene editing in agricultural biotech have boomed in recent years, from improving crop yield to maximizing food nutrition. One of our favorite red fruits, the tomato, is no stranger to the CRISPR toolbox. In 2021, genome-edited tomatoes enriched in gamma-aminobutyric acid were commercially launched in Japan by Sonatec Seed. In a new report published in Gen Biotechnology, researchers from Seoul National University in South Korea have applied CRISPR gene editing to produce tomato fruits with enhanced levels of provitamin D. In humans, Provitamin D3 is a precursor for the synthesis of biologically active vitamin D and serves as a protective agent against ultraviolet radiation on the skin. Circulatory vitamin D often falls below desirable levels, particularly among individuals with limited exposure to sunlight. While dietary supplements help address this deficiency, natural vitamin D sources are restricted to a few animal-derived sources, such as fish, egg yolks, and beef liver, as fruits and vegetables have historically shown limited capacity for Provitamin D3 production. Gene-edited Provitamin D3 enriched tomatoes maintain morphological similarity to wild-type fruits. In the new study, featured on the cover of the June issue of Gen Biotechnology, Sung-Hwa Cho, Ph.D., and his colleagues at SNU used CRISPR gene editing in tomatoes to induce a loss of function in one of two dwarf 5 genes, a homologue of the human gene responsible for converting Provitamin D3 to cholesterol. The plant homologue of DHCR7 was initially identified in Arabidopsis thaliana as DWF5. Given a high sequence identity of more than 83%, the Korean team hypothesized that the two tomato DWF5 genes, SIDWF5A and SIDWF5B, function redundantly in their biosynthetic pathways. They chose to edit SIDWF5A after spatial expression patterns showed that transcript levels of SIDWF5A were 2.5 times higher than those of SIDWF5B, especially in green and red fruits. Remarkably, the new gene-edited tomatoes showed accumulated Provitamin D3 levels as high as 6 μg dry weight in red fruits, while maintaining morphological similarity to wild-type tomatoes. As the daily recommended human intake of vitamin D is 20 μg, the authors state that consuming a single ripe fresh tomato weighing 150 g has the potential to significantly alleviate vitamin D deficiencies worldwide. With this work, Choi et al. Show a second proof that tomato fruits can be biofortified with elevated levels of Provitamin D3, which could provide a plant-based source of vitamin D if plants with this trait are brought to market, comments Aaron Hummel, Ph.D., Chief Technology Officer at Pairwise. a North Carolina-based food tech company applying CRISPR to develop conscious grain salad mixes that aim to be fresher, tastier, and easier to access. This is another important step in a groundswell of nutritional, quality, and other beneficial improvements that are being made in fresh fruit and vegetable crops by a wide range of public and private institutions and companies. I'm pleased to see the progress in this space that is made for the benefit of the end consumer, Hummel said. While these Provitamin D3 enhanced tomatoes are promising, the authors note that further research is needed to quantify and compare the levels of Provitamin D3 in genome-edited tomatoes with other natural sources of vitamin D, notably. Stability and bioavailability studies are needed to evaluate the impact of cooking, processing, and storage on the retention of Provitamin D3 in addition to feeding studies and clinical trials to determine the bioactivity and physiological effects of consuming Provitamin D3 enriched tomatoes. The authors also note that some of the genome-edited lines display a lower number of fruits, although this variability could be mitigated by introducing the Provitamin D3 trait into genetically fixed inbred lines. CRISPRing more tomatoes. In addition to following in the footsteps of Japan's GABA tomatoes, this gen biotechnology study expands upon the related results published in Nature Plants in 2022 by Kathy Martin, Ph.D., and colleagues from the John Innes Center in the UK, which demonstrated the accumulation of Provitamin D3 in stems and leaves through knockout of SIDWF5B. By editing the sister gene, SIDWF5A, the Korean group produced higher levels of Provitamin D3 accumulation, specifically in fruit tissues. Professor Cho, who is also the CEO of a company called G+FLAS Life Sciences, says that researchers are actively exploring other modifications of tomatoes to enhance both yield and nutrition using CRISPR. A recent review article lists leaf, stem, flower, male sterility, and fruit development as a few target tomato traits. In addition, researchers are enhancing biotic stress resistance against pathogens such as tomato yellow leaf curl virus, powdery mildew, and late blight, and improving abiotic stress tolerance such as resistance to heat, cold, drought, salinity, and enhancing carbon-nitrogen. Metabolism. Herbicide resistance is another area of interest. And the gen biotechnology authors are not stopping at tomatoes. Research is underway to introduce this trait to other crops that contain at least 2 copies of the DWF5 genes, including pepper and paprika crops. The burning question remains, what are the regulatory and scale-up hurdles that impact whether these tomatoes hit to the market? Cho states that in many countries, there is a growing consideration that CRISPR genome-edited crops may be exempt from conventional GMO regulations. Specifically, plants edited using site-directed nuclease 1 technology are often deemed indistinguishable from naturally occurring spontaneous mutations and therefore exempt from regulatory oversight, said Cho. South Korea has also initiated discussions on this matter, and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy has submitted a revision to the Living Modified Organisms Act to the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea. Moreover, the governmental approval process for the GABA tomatoes in Japan has served as a guide for other countries considering the commercialization of gene-edited crops. Our company takes into account the Japanese GABA cases to facilitate discussions with the general public and key government agencies, including MODI, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, and the Ministry of Environment. Cho told Jen, by drawing on the experience and regulations surrounding GABA tomatoes, we aim to navigate the approval path for future gene-edited tomatoes. As for scale-up, Cho says his team is actively preparing commercial seeds while awaiting the resolution of regulatory challenges in Korea. Simultaneously, the researchers are exploring collaborations with global seed companies. The seeds and technologies are also readily available for out-licensing. Cho's goal is to release these gene-edited fruits for sale as early as 2026, once regulatory hurdles are resolved in Korea and elsewhere. When asked about the public perception in Korea to CRISPRed fruit, Cho remained encouraged. While there are strong voices from anti-GMO activists in Korea, it is important to note that there is also a growing demand for functional and premium-grade tomatoes among the general public, Cho said. Korean consumers are becoming more aware of the fact that Korea is the only country in Northeast Asia where the regulatory status of CRISPR-edited crop plants is not clearly defined as either living modified organism or non-LMO. Cho says that lawmakers in Korea are actively engaged in discussions regarding this issue, indicating a willingness to explore and potentially relax regulations surrounding CRISPR-edited crops in the coming years. At the same time, Cho emphasizes the importance of ongoing public engagement, education, and transparent communication to ensure a well-informed and inclusive decision-making process.
And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came, and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven, and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence, and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy, and not spare the place, for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure, there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure, there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, O, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure, there shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way, as soon as he had left communing with Abraham. And Abraham returned unto his place. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet. and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly. And they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides, son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out, and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the man laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my lord. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy which thou hast shown unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. O let me escape thither. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city, for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth, when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham gat up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. For there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness, and denying the only Lord God, and our Lord Jesus Christ. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah, and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication, and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
This is just a test. The big one comes later. This is just a test. The big one comes later. This is just a test. The big one comes later.
You wish to test me? Good.